This podcast is brought to you by the Spur of the Moment podcast.
Welcome back to the AA Analysis Podcast. Today, we're taking a look at a very interesting episode from our friend, the part of Your Broadway World Podcast.
It's great to be back. And, usually when we look at a movie review, there's a certain rhythm to it. You talk about the plot, the acting.
Right, the usual stuff.
But this one is different. The discussion starts with this really warm, fuzzy childhood nostalgia.
And then it just descends into chaos.
Slowly, methodically, yes. We're looking at their analysis of Disney's 1995 film, Pocahontas.
Which, if you were a kid in the 90s, you couldn't escape it. The lunchboxes, the toys.
Oh, absolutely. But what we're analyzing here is really that friction between the memory and the adult reality.
Yeah.
The source hosts, they start with the love for the music, the animation, but then they really have to grapple with the noble savage tropes, the both sides thing.
And just how impossible this story would be to make today.
Exactly.
And just to give you a little taste of what's coming, because you have to stick around for this.
Oh, you do.
The conversation in their material takes such a hard left turn at the end. They find this obscure piece of media that makes Disney's Pocahontas look like, a historical document.
The Italian cartoon.
The Italian cartoon. It is truly unhinged. We will get into all of it.
But let's start where they started, the nostalgia.
Right.
They don't just jump into the criticism. They actually start with a very specific memory, the Sega Genesis video game.
Oh, man. I played that, did you?
I actually missed it, but their description was so vivid. They talked about that one.
Where you have to rescue John Smith?
Yes. You're playing as Pocahontas trying to stop his execution.
Which is so wild when you think about it now. You're like gamifying the prelude to a colonial war.
But as a kid, you don't see it. You just see the game. They said it's basically just a mild palette swap of the movie background.
You're just jumping and running, consuming the brand.
Exactly. You love it so much you don't question it.
Yeah.
But that love, it hits a wall really fast in their talk. They start applying what they call the Lindsay Ellis lens.
This was a fascinating part for me.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Lindsay Ellis is a video essayist, does these amazing cultural critiques. And the source mentions her argument that Pocahontas and Moana are, structurally the same movie.
I had never thought of that. But once they laid it out, I couldn't unsee it.
It's a total carbon copy. The source breaks it down like a checklist. First, daughter of the chief.
Check.
Dad wants her to stay on the land, be safe, take her place. But she wants something more.
Right. She's drawn to the water. The water is the great unknown.
And then you have the wise spiritual grandmother figure.
The Mother Willow.
And in Moana, it's the ghost of the grandma, the stingray.
It's the same skeleton. It really is.
It is. But here's the key thing the source points out. This is the whiplash moment. They argue Moana works because it's a myth. It's a fantasy story.
Right.
Pocahontas fails morally and narratively because it's about real people.
Moana didn't have to deal with the Virginia Company, yeah.
Precisely. And that's what leads them into the whole historical whiplash of rewatching this as an adult.
Because if the movie is your only source, you think Pocahontas is this, adult supermodel. And John Smith is this clean-shaven blonde guy.
Voiced by Mel Gibson, no less. And the reality, as the source just puts it so bluntly, is that the real Pocahontas Mataoaka was maybe 12 years old when they showed up.
12.
And John Smith, he wasn't a young romantic lead. He was described as an old man for the time, probably late 20s, early 30s, big beard.
And the source is very clear. There was no romance.
Zero romance, which makes the whole core of the Disney movie feel really creepy now. They literally say, it feels weird that we've sexed up Pocahontas.
Yeah, that's a direct quote.
It just creates this impossible viewing experience.
Yeah.
But, they do get into the broader context of colonialism.
Yeah.
And they're nuanced about it.
They bring up that the noble savage trope is complicated, that, colonization wasn't just a European thing. They mention Rome, Japan.
And the point they're making isn't to excuse what happened in Virginia. It's to critique how the movie presents it. They say the film tries to do a both sides thing.
Right, like spears versus guns are an equal fight.
Yeah, as if they're equally matched, equally responsible for the conflict. And that feels so disingenuous when one side has muskets and cannons.
It's a fairy tale narrative forced onto a massacre.
Exactly. But, despite all that heaviness, they find a lot of humor in just the weird production choices, the casting, for example.
The casting is wild. I had no idea about some of this.
Okay, so you have Mel Gibson as John Smith, and they admit he actually does a really good job.
They do. They separate the art from the artist there. But the one that got me was Christian Bale
Young Christian Bale.
as Thomas.
The young settler who shoots Cocoon.
You can't even tell it's him until you know. But the real shocker for me in the source was about the chief.
Oh, yeah. So his speaking voice is Russell Means, a legendary Native American activist.
Right.
But his singing voice
Is Jim Cummings
The voice of Winnie the Pooh.
and Tigger. The source just points out how unbelievably jarring that is. The indigenous leader is singing with the voice of Tigger.
That is pure, weird Disney magic. Speaking of magic, they spend a lot of time on the magic tree.
Grandmother Willow, yeah. Or as they call it, the weed magic.
The weed magic, because that's the movie's only explanation for how they can understand each other.
Right, they just listen to the wind,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly they're fluent.
And the source asks a great question. Does that magic apply to everyone? Or just the two of them? Do all the settlers now understand the tribe?
It's a massive plot hole.
Yeah.
And speaking of things that don't belong, let's talk about Percy the Pug.
Oh, they love Miko the raccoon.
Yiko's the main character, basically.
Yeah.
But Percy.
Percy the pug would not have survived.
The source is hilarious about this. They say a spoiled pug with breathing problems would have had a quick and agonizing death in 17th century Virginia.
It's just pure fantasy. A pug in Jamestown.
It really is. They also talked about that song that got cut, If I Never Knew You.
Right, it's a duet when Smith is captured. And they argue it was a huge mistake to cut it.
Because it adds depth, right?
Right.
It makes Smith's character more than just an adventurer. He's saying he'd rather die than not have met her.
It raises the stakes of the, fictional romance.
Yeah. But it's interesting how they praise the craft while also just dismantling the story. Like with John Smith's fate.
The gunshot, yeah. Ratcliffe shoots him in the gut.
With a lead ball from a musket.
And the movie solution is, we have to get him back to London.
On a months-long boat ride across the Atlantic.
He's dead. He would be so dead. The source jokes he'd be more likely to survive with the weed magic in Virginia.
It completely breaks the story when you stop to think. And that leads to their big question. Could you even remake Pocahontas today?
And the answer is just a hard no.
It's impossible. It's the remake problem. If you make it historically accurate, she's a kid.
So the romance, the core of the Disney story, is gone.
But if you keep the romance, it's offensive and creepy by today's standards, and you can't have the white savior ending.
John Smith taking a bullet for the chief, yeah. That trope does not fly.
So you can't fix it without breaking it.
They did have a great casting idea if they were forced to do it, though.
Oh, yes. Shane Gillis.
As Governor Ratcliffe. Or even better, 2 Shane Gillises.
I think that was their way of saying the only way to do it now is as a complete farce.
It has to be. Okay, speaking of things that don't work, we are about to get to the wildest part of this. But first, we need to take a quick break for our sponsors.
So today's episode is sponsored by the Spur of the Moment Podcast, everybody. Come join us every Saturday, and we're going to do this. We're going to sit here. We're going to talk about the news. Time to talk about the Minecraft.
Okay.
It looks
So,
bad. We're going to talk about movies. That new Joker movie is apparently terrible, and I want to see it so badly because I hear it's awful. We're going to make some jokes. We're going to have some laughs.
There's a lot of funny jokes in there. There's a lot of weird jokes in there. The Channing Tatum one will always make me laugh, especially when you hear the behind the scenes stuff, like when you hear the behind the scenes story of how they just phoned them up.
We're occasionally going to have other people along for the ride.
A really fun fact, though, is I learned last year that that Coraline was Leica and not Disney.
Oh, interesting. I mean, I can see why you would make that
Yeah.
mistake. Yeah. Because it does seem like it's a different. And to be fair,
That would be a horrifying, terrible Disney movie.
it would be because yeah. And we're just gonna have a generally good time. George, do you have anything else you want to say about our podcast? Make people watch it.
We watch movies. Sometimes we watch shows, but we always have fun.
Here
On the spur, on the spur, 3, 2, 1. On the spur of the podcast moment.
Yeah, we nailed it. Nailed
Spur
it.
of the Moment podcast.
Yeah. It's Spur of the Moment podcast every Saturday. We nailed it.
You can expect awesome content like that.
We cut flawless promos every single week.
And we are back. Okay, we promised you something bizarre. Towards the end of their discussion, the source hosts find something that just completely derails the conversation.
It's the discovery of a 1997 Italian animated series, or maybe a movie. It's called Pocahontas, Princess of the American Indians.
And their reaction is just pure hysterical laughter. They say they were crying real tears.
Because it makes the Disney movie look like a Ken Burns documentary.
So set the scene. What is even happening in this cartoon?
First of all, geography is optional. In this version, Pocahontas basically goes on a road trip.
A road trip.
She travels to meet the Aztecs.
The Aztecs
Yeah.
is in Mexico, and whose empire had fallen long before Jamestown. But, in this version, it's just a quick trip.
That's incredible. Who else?
The Apache? Also not in Virginia.
Not even close. It's like the creators just had a list of Native American tribes and threw darts at it.
And she has a spiritual guide,
A
right?
character named Hopio. And it gets so much weirder. They show Native American heaven.
Oh, no.
And in this heaven, there is a lion.
A lion, like an African lion.
Lion, an animal not native to the Americas.
Yeah.
And a white buffalo. It's just this mashup of every generic trope they could find.
The source speakers were losing it over this.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just the facts, right? They had an issue with the animation style.
Huge issue. They accuse it of being essentially animated brownface.
Wow.
They said the characters look like white characters who were just colored in without any distinct indigenous features.
And the ending.
The ending just baffled them. There's a scene where Pocahontas has a child who is described as obscenely white.
With no explanation. None. The source just calls the whole thing a fever dream and delightfully problematic. It's so wrong it loops around to being hilarious.
It really puts the Disney movie into perspective. We spent all this time critiquing Disney, which we should, but then you see this and realize the bar was on the floor.
It shows it wasn't just Disney, it's a whole 90s pop culture thing. Everyone wanted that native princess story without any of the reality.
So after all of that, after the Italian cartoon, they circle back to their final thoughts on the Disney film. And they don't hate it.
No, not at all. And that's the nuance. You can criticize something and still appreciate parts of it. They praise Alan Menken's score.
Colors of the Wind is an incredible song.
It is. And just around the river bend. The music does so much work. But they also talk about the song Savages.
Ooh, yeah.
That song hits different today. The lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Vermin, barely even human.
And the source says, the point of the song is to show that racism is bad, but hearing those words in a Disney movie now is just shocking.
It's meant to be the villain song showing their hate, but in 2024, it feels incredibly raw.
So what's the final verdict from them?
The consensus seems to be that Pocahontas is this technical marvel. It's got the great animation, the amazing songs, the funny animals. It checks all the Disney Renaissance boxes.
But it's a product of 1995.
It's a time capsule, exactly. It tries to navigate this historical minefield and just does it very, very clumsily.
It's fascinating how our view of these movies changes. As a kid, you just see the pretty colors. As an adult, you see all the cracks.
And that really raises the big question for me from all of this. Can we ever really separate art from the history it's portraying? Or does putting that fairy tale filter on a real tragedy always do a disservice to the real people involved?
That is a heavy question, and definitely something to think about the next time you see this pop up on Disney+. Maybe skip the Italian one, though.
Oh, definitely skip the Italian one. Unless you really want to see Aztecs in Virginia.
Thanks for joining us for this analysis of a really complex and surprisingly funny conversation. We will catch you on the next one.
Hi, this is Bill Farmer, the voice of Goofy and other characters. You got to watch the Heart of Your Broadway World podcast right here. It's going to be fun.